Proverbs chapter 6, verse 23. For the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching is light, and reproofs for discipline are the way of life. You know, God spoke this to me many, many years ago regarding disciplining children, but this is true regarding helping employees to fulfill their obligations and their responsibilities in a business, or the same thing with church members. God says there are three components to discipline that are critical. Number one, He said, a command. If you don't tell people what you expect of them, obviously they aren't going to know. They can't guess. So you give them a clear command. The second thing is a teaching. Explain to them why it is you want them to do what you want them to do. And this third part, this third component of discipline is the part that most people miss, especially with their children, and that is it says reproof for life. What that actually means is a consequence. You determine in advance what the consequence is. And you know, if you've determined in advance, you can implement that consequence with a smile. A lot of times people discipline in anger. They take value away from their children, yell at them, and the reason is they haven't determined in advance an appropriate consequence. If you've determined an appropriate consequence, then it's very simple to love that child, honor the child, bless the child while you implement the consequence. So if you only do one, if you only give a command, and you never give a teaching or consequence, you simply teach children to disobey your voice. I remember we had a neighbor like that. She would tell her children what she wanted them to do, but never implement a consequence. And the result was the children just totally disobeyed her voice. She taught her children that her voice meant nothing. Do you know when parents teach that to their children, then children think the same thing about the Word of God, that it doesn't mean anything. If you only have a command and a consequence, no teaching, children never learn wisdom. They don't know why they should do what you're asking them to do, and they will only do it as long as you're around to enforce a consequence. But the moment they leave home, if they never understood the wisdom of it, they won't do it anymore because you don't have a consequence there. But when you do all three, you give a command, a teaching, and a consequence, you explain to them, then the goal of discipline is fulfilled. What is the goal of discipline? Wisdom. Wisdom that your subordinates, your children, your employees, those that you pastor, whatever context in which you find yourself, that those people would learn why you're asking them to do that thing, so that even when you're not present, they would have wisdom to understand the reasons why, and they would make that same decision themselves. That's the goal of discipline. So the question in our lives today is, are there areas where we've just been giving a command and then yelling at people because they didn't fulfill it, never giving a teaching or an explanation, understanding of why, so that people don't learn wisdom, or having no consequence at all, so we teach people to just disobey our voice? When we do all three of those, then people around us learn wisdom. That's how God trains us. He gives us a command, and He gives us a consequence, and He gives us a teaching. That's what, you know, the word Torah, which is the first 5 books of Moses, literally means teaching. It doesn't mean, it's a lot of times translated law. It doesn't actually mean law. It just means teaching, instruction, understanding the principles of life. So today, use all three in your family, in your business context: a command, a teaching, and a consequence to help people learn wisdom. Walk in wisdom. And today, as you go through life, remember, love God with all your heart. Bless people around you, and you will make a difference.